going on at our universities? Why have you all become the enemy of free speech? Why do you all get triggered by everything? Why have you all become such snowflakes?
Interesting that you want to position students as enemies of free speech when it's the very opposite. In fact, this report shows that so many students are welcoming the idea of a free speech champion, but also are welcoming the idea that we can hold multiple truths, that yes, we have to uphold freedom of speech, but we also need to put in place protections to make sure that our campuses are a safe space for the evolving people who are coming into them.
What does that mean?
And if you want to ask what that means, it means that when you've got someone who has views that are obviously going to spark outrage, that you give a heads up to the people coming. These are common sense kind of things that students are talking about. And in fact, if I may finish my point, when you talk to people in local communities, when you talk to ordinary people and you talk about the real realities of these measures that students are suggesting, like giving a heads up to people or like, helping facilitate protests and so on, people on the ground agree that these are just common sense things to avoid.
Actually, they don't. I don't know who you're talking to, but they don't.
I don't know who you're talking to.
Most people think this is all completely crackers.
What is crackers?
Well, let me go through.
What
do you need trigger warnings for about stuff you may read or stuff a professor may say? Why do you need trigger warnings? I mean, what happens? You literally have this sound.
I think this is a pretty
Does that go off?
Obviously, you don't do that. I think what we're seeing here is actually what the report warns about. It's people like you who are creating these kind of inflammatory headlines and responses to what is a pretty common sense issue.
No,
you've said that there's going to be a sound played out in classrooms. That's not what's happening in universities. If it was a joke, it wasn't very funny.
That was a joke. You may not find my humour funny, but it was intended as a joke.
Okay.
However, I do not understand the concept of a trigger warning for something you may read or hear at university. The whole point of university is to be challenged.
It's to be critical. And in fact, it's students who are... No, it's about learning to be critical of the things that you see and hear and absorb around you. And in fact, it's students who are standing up
and tolerant.
The purpose of an education is not to produce tolerance.
Here's what Ricky Gervais said about free speech, and tell me if you think he's wrong. If you don't believe in free speech with people who you disagree with, and even hate for what they stand for, then you don't believe in free speech.
No, you don't. But if you don't believe that freedom of speech has the legal limitations that it has always had in democratic countries when it comes to the Equalities Act and other forms of limits that have been always put on freedom of speech, then you also don't believe in freedom of speech. You believe in freedom from consequence. And those are different things.
I think you should be absolutely held to the fire. There should be consequences to what you say, and you should be challenged, and there should be debate. What I can't get my head round is that 86% of students now want trigger warnings on coarse content, which might upset students.
A recent study sparked intense debate about the state of free speech in universities. According to the report, there has been a dramatic shift among students towards supporting censorship and limiting free speech on campuses. The survey revealed that nearly 2/3 of students, around 61%, are now opposed to unrestricted free speech, a significant increase from just 37% in 2016. Furthermore, an overwhelming 86% of students endorse the use of trigger warnings to protect against potentially upsetting content. This trend has raised concerns about the growing demand for safe spaces and the removal of controversial speakers and materials. Critics argue that universities, traditionally bastions of free thought and debate, are becoming environments where differing opinions are stifled. This study has reignited the conversation about whether such measures are protecting students or curtailing essential freedoms, with some viewing this as a necessary evolution in creating inclusive environments, while others see it as a dangerous precedent for free expression.
Let me ask you, what would you find too triggering to read? Give me an example.
I can't give you a personal example because it's not my personal opinion.
Of students.
This is students who are just saying, tell me what's on the course. That's what a course list is. That's what a book list is. That's what a bibliography is. It's not a big deal. And the fact that you're making it into a big deal is exactly what it says in the report.
What is a big deal?
You have bad faith actors, if I may continue. You have bad faith actors who are stirring up division around this when so many organisations, most of whom usually disagree, are saying this is a non-issue. And then you have to ask the question, why do we have so much airtime on this? Why do we have so many people pouring money and resources, particularly so our government, into talking about this? And when you see it in the context of the policing bill, bill, of all of the other bills that are coming through that are incredibly draconian, you have to ask the question, who is benefiting from this conversation? Because it's not students, because students are welcoming freedom of speech, and that's exactly what this report says. It said they welcome
it actually says the complete opposite. It says that
if you read it that way, of course it does. If you read the Daily Mail's report,
it was literally, actually I read it in the Times. There was the exact, there was the exact same survey done 6 years ago, same questions, and they published the results. It shows,
language changes.
It shows a massive increase in the number of students who want to censor
It's not
free
censorship.
speech.
It's about holding multiple truths, and the fact that we've got such a reductionist, reductionist, diluted conversation around freedom of speech that even when you're saying, I can never finish a point. What was the point of asking me on?
Listen, because I wanted to hear your view.
So please let me share the view.
But if you say something,
let me share the view. Let the
I know
people
you're not
view.
used to debating at universities these days. So let me debate.
Clearly, you're not used to debating because you're not letting me get in.
You're obviously used to just saying what you want to say, and no one's allowed to challenge you.
That is not what happens in universities. I'll tell you that for free.
Well, actually, we know that's what's happening in universities. And
when was the last time you went to university, Piers? When was the last time you were a student?
I was a student when I was 19.
Oh, how old are you? That's a long time ago. That is a long ass time ago.
You're being ageist.
Can I say that?
You're being ageist.
No, I'm just saying.
Wow.
That's a fact. It was a long time ago.
Triggered. Can you not? No, can you not be?
You're the snowflake here.
Can you not be ageist?
You're the snowflake here.
Piers Morgan's stance on free speech hits the nail on the head. Universities should be places where minds are expanded, not coddled. When did we start wrapping our ideas in bubble wrap, scared to even consider opposing viewpoints? It's baffling that students, the supposed future leaders, are the ones calling for more censorship. Sure, freedom of speech isn't about being free from consequences, but the point is that ideas, even the controversial ones, should be debated, not silenced. Trigger warnings in safe spaces might sound considerate, but they often become tools for shutting down conversation rather than fostering it. Piers is right to call this out as completely nuts. How are students supposed to be prepared for the real world if they can't handle a challenging opinion in a classroom setting? It's not about offending for the sake of it. It's about building resilience, understanding, and most importantly, the ability to argue your case. Universities used to be where you'd encounter ideas that rattled your beliefs, and you'd leave stronger for it. Now, it seems, they've become echo chambers where dissent is avoided at all costs. That's not just a loss for the students, it's a loss for society as a whole.